Okay, and the rock line will be somewhere around here. There's some water.
Can you draw the flowers a little bit darker, Junyi?
Oh, the flower?
Yeah.
Oh, don't. It's not drawn out. It's kind of just they just look like these circles. They're not really drawn out. So
know,
just
yeah.
here, I can do it darker. You just want to mark out the location of where they will be.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something like that. Okay. And there's 2 large rocks in here. 1, 2. Keep in mind that the jar is a circular object, so your water line inside is also circular. That's the inside line. And the bottom of the jar is not a flat line, but rather it's a curved line. Okay, and then I will just lightly mark where the rest of this rocks are in here. Something like that. Now I'm going to mark the table. If you want, you don't even have to have a table. You can have a more abstracted background. Doesn't really matter, it's all up to you. A table, and I'll just draw the basic lines for the shadow. Okay, something like that. I will ignore the rest of the things in the background because I don't want to include them. But I like the balance of how this one has this one stripe of color, so I might include that in this one as well when we actually draw the background. Okay. Add it, be here. Okay. So this is the preliminary sketch. Now finished. So we can start painting. The first thing that we're going to start by doing is the background. Personally, I like to make up random colors as I go. And for this one, what I think I will be doing today is I'm feeling like a pastel pinkish, beigeish color. So usually for the background, it's up to you what you want to do, but the background changes the mood or the atmosphere of the painting itself. So if you are feeling very dark, then you can use a dark background. If you want it to look more bright, more happy, then use a lighter background. We're gonna go in with, let's mix some colors. So I'm going to be creating a light yellow. I just add yellow and white. You can make your background any color you want it to be. Yeah, it's like a pastel yellow. I feel like it's too clean. I want to make it muddier. I'll be adding, I think I will add the littlest amount of brown to this. Okay. With the background application, you can do it quite loosely. So you can start wherever. And just apply the paint. Actually prefer if the paint is not too even and the colors are not too uniform. So I kind of just work as I go. When you're going around the flowers, it's okay if you go over the outline because acrylic dries very fast. While you are doing this, you can dab some into the outline of the jar here in the back because the glass here is actually transparent. So you're able to see a little bit of the background. At this point, you can add color to the sides if you're using a canvas. The sides, so you don't have to go back and mix this color. But I will not be doing that because I just, I always leave that to the last minute. So if you're using canvas, don't be me, paint the sides. We'll save you some time later on. Okay, so I have my first coat of this yellow. And I'm realizing now that my flowers are also yellow. So I feel like I need to do something else with my background. Add some other colors. Oh, one more thing. If you take your background color and you mix it with white, you'll get a very muted version of your background color. You should take that and paint it into your table because the table, if you look at the picture, is lighter than the background. So I will do that right now. Okay. Again, I am not as concerned with the accuracy part right now.
Hey.
I will also take some of that table color and dab it into the jar. And there are some highlights over here in this region, so I will add those too, approximately where they would be. Again, not concerned with accuracy because I will be going over this in the dark color anyway, so it doesn't matter. We add some yellow into the rocks. Okay. Now is the fun part. You get to play with your background. So I will add a darker shading into the background. I'm thinking purples and blues. So use colors that are on the cooler side of the spectrum to contrast with this. If you're using a bright color, you should use a darker, more cooler tone color, such as green or blue or purple, to contrast with this. If you're using a dark color, then maybe you want to try using a lighter color to contrast that when you build up the rest of your background. So I think I will go with purpley blue. Okay. So we need to mix red and blue to get a purple. And I will add some purple. Okay, I'll just give everybody, it looks like black on camera, but it's a very dark purple. I will give everybody a moment to create their colors and catch up.
Junyi,
Yeah.
what are the three colors you putting in there?
Oh, I just have blue.
Blue.
I have blue, red, and I'm using purple.
So what if they don't have purple?
If you don't have purple, mix blue and red together in equal amounts. It will create purple. So
the blue and the red that they are using there will already create purple, is it?
Yeah, this will already create purple. However, this purple is a much deeper shade. It's a different quality of paint. So I like to add it to get more purple, but you do not need to do that. Move this over.
蒋蓉啊，老师用这3个颜色是红色、蓝色、 红色跟蓝色，摊起来就变为那个紫色，是吧？听不到啊，听不到你讲什么。你要开你的 microphone， 如果你要讲话。你开你的 microphone， 小荣，我知道你在讲话，不过我们听不到啊。你可以开你的 microphone 嘛？哈哈。啊，可以 ，OK， 现在你讲。
我的原料干了，我要泡一下。我买的很多原料都干掉了，我要泡一泡。
哦，你的颜色干了哈？
我还得泡一下。
你可以买新的颜色嘛？
对，要买那个像牙膏一样的还好一点。
或者是你要不要这个？你要这个我就给 Angela 给你。
我买了好多颜料，我到时候我看嘛，我看看，因为老师讲的我听，老师讲的我也听不懂，很费劲儿。
OK，
Oh, may I speak Mandarin? May can't hear you. You are muted.
我看老师画。
There's just 2 in the class that needs the extra language help. That's Xiang Rong in Mandarin and Mrs. Liang in Cantonese.
I do not speak Cantonese.
Who just joined us? À, 梁太啊，梁太，如果你聽到我係咪？你家下要溝藍色同埋紅色啊，變成紫色。
Okay, if everybody is caught up, we can continue. So if you need more time on this part, please let me know. If not, so I have the blue and the red and the purple. You don't have to use this combination of colors. You can use just blue. You can just use only purple. You can use whatever you have. Because it's just the background. It doesn't matter as much. Okay, that's looking very blue. I think I need to add more red. That's still very blue. Oh well, we will just use blue. We have a little bit of purple up here. Okay, so I will be adding this into the background and the shadow. So first I'll add a stripe right here, I think, like my friend did for hers. I like the way that the paint sits right there. You don't have to do that. You add another one over here. And we'll add a little bit of blue just going up. Add some purple in there. You can play with the colors. If you don't have purple, you can try green. If you don't have green, it's all up to you. You can do whatever you want. The thing is, you still need the other background color, so that yellow, you still want it to peek through. We'll add some over here. And if you decide you don't like something you just did, then you can just wait till it dries, go back with another coat. That's the good thing about acrylics, it dries very fast. So you can do whatever you want. Okay. Don't be worried about seeing the brush strokes that it's not fully blended. It's I feel like it creates a very interesting looking background. You might want to play with adding 1 or 2 horizontal stripes somewhere. Oops, that's my table. Okay. Okay, now before your dark colors dry, your shadowed colors, you want to apply some of it into this shadow region. be aware that this area right here is highlighted. So you're going to go over this area, but do not touch that coat underneath. So you can let the reflection come through. Besides that, you will notice some areas of the shadow are darker than others, such as this whole area, I think, is the darkest area. The rest of it is actually not as dark. So if you would like, you can add some white into this or add a different color. Let's add some white, just a little bit. And then maybe I will add some pink or green. I think green. I think I would do green. It just gives the shadow a different tint. You can add a different color if you would like, just a little bit. In painting, we try not to use black. Painting is much more interesting when you are able to make your shadows out of different colors. Black is just becomes a black hole. This whole thing will just become a big black hole. It sucks your eye in. So let's create this greenish gray color. Don't be worried about matching the same color or anything like that. It's doesn't matter very much as long as it's a dark color. Maybe you can add some of the other color you mix. If you decide to do it, you can add some in the dark shadow as well. Just touch it in there. For acrylic, it's better to move faster because it dries very quickly. And you can always take some of that color you created and throw it in the background. You can throw a little bit in there. Okay, because this part fades out into that color, I'll add a little bit more white. Oh, it's quite purple now. Okay, and then with the extra color, you can take it, if you have extra, and you can put some into the rocks where you see the shadow. So there is some right here. Okay, well, this is really dark. Oh, there we go. Well, that needs to be, this part I think needs to be darker. If you do want to blend something, what you can do is take a dry brush and go in to use that instead. But the issue with this is it doesn't work very well once the brush is wet. So you take a dry, clean brush and then you go in to the area you want to blend. With adding the shadow, you just add it where you see a dark area. It doesn't have to be picture perfect. I think the painting has a lot more character if you don't try to make it picture perfect. Okay, now I will dab some of this color. It's now diluted because I ran out, but that's okay. So I will dab some into this corner right here. You can see there are some darker areas. There's a shape, something like this, and then it goes like this. Just touch it very gently. And later we'll go in with the highlights. And the top of the jar, there's actually just some lines. Maybe we can put one right here. When you're painting the line, just use a light stroke. It doesn't have to be too uniform. And the flowers, you can add some into the flowers if you want. You don't have to. That will be covered later on. Okay, now I'll wait for everybody. Just give everybody a moment. Okay. Now, if everybody has had an opportunity to catch up, if you need more time, please let me know. So now, at this point in the painting, once you're finished your background, if you were painting by yourself, you would be able to go into the smaller details in any order. It doesn't really matter. But I'm gonna go into the rocks because the rocks and the sand take up a big portion of the jar. So I want to get them on the page. For the rock color, I will be mixing a sort of the beige color. I think the beige will be white, brown, and a little bit of yellow. So I have white. Oops. Brown, I think I will use burnt umber, but if you have any brown works. You only need a little bit if you're creating a beige. Okay, that still looks really white. There we go. That's our beigey color. I'll add some yellow to that. Only need a little bit of yellow. There we go. Creates like a light beigey color. And once you have that, before it dries, you can go in very quickly and create some rocks. All the rocks are different colors actually, so it might mix another one. With the rocks, again, don't be too worried about the accuracy of the thing, just add in the color in patches. So you see this is a rock, okay, I'll add a piece of color here. This is a rock, add some color here. And then the thing will start to come together. For the sand, I'll also just throw in the sand right now.
Hi, teacher. I want to ask.
Yeah.
How many colors mix this color? How many kinds?
This color is just white, and you have brown.
White and black.
White, brown, this one.
Black. Yeah.
And a little bit of yellow. So you just need a little bit of yellow and brown.
White, black. A little bit of yellow.
If you don't have yellow, just use a little bit of brown. If you still have some of that purple left over or any dark color, what you can try to do is water it down and try to mix it with your leftover color. If not, it's okay. We can build another gray color, but I like to reuse whatever I already have. So you can take that. Some of the rocks are a little bit darker. It's totally optional. So you can go in and actually make some of the rocks a little bit darker. Okay, now for those of you who don't have that leftover, we'll create a darker gray. Okay, hopefully everybody has had an opportunity to catch up. Now I will be adding a darker gray into some of the rocks here. To mix this gray, I think I'll just mix blue and brown together. So I have brown and blue. I guess you do not need very much blue. Okay, so now you have a very swampy, muddy looking brown. And the first thing you want to do with this is add it into some of the rocks in the back. Some of the rocks are a little bit darker. And don't use all of it. Keep some of it on the palette. We'll add some white to it later. Just in a moment here, after I finish adding the swamp color. And you get something like this. You get the individual rocks starting to pop out a little bit more. And add it wherever you want to add some shadow if you didn't do that before. Okay, and then before that dries, add some white to it, just a little bit of white. Just a little dab of white so that it changes. You get a gray. Almost a gray. It's like a very swampy, green looking blue gray. And you can apply it to some of your rocks in the front. For example, this one. Uh-oh, oops. When you're painting, using straight gray, when you mix black and white together, it creates gray. However, that gray lacks the depth of a gray that you get, for example, when you mix brown and blue, and then you add white. So you can play with it. A lot of colors together will make different grays. It's quite interesting. I have some left over. I will put it up here, put some up here. Just a little bit. I don't want too much. Oh, I like that. Okay, you know, I'm going to add, I'm going to take that gray and just add a stripe of bottom. Just add a stripe along the bottom of this jar. But I'm not at the very, very end. I keep a little bit, I keep a strip here. You can see it, but it's still light. Creates like an interesting shadow. I like the way that looks. And then some up here. A lot of painting is trying things and seeing if you like the way that they look. Okay, now I think we can add some stems in here. So you will need a green. Depending on which green you're using, you might want to add some brown. Brown or yellow, and yellow. You're after a sort of fresh grass type of color. At this point, I'm changing my brush to a skinnier one. However, you can use the same one. So let's mix the color. Let's see. Yeah, it's not bad. Okay, so you would have created a grass green. Looks quite dark on camera. But if you add a little bit of white to this, just on the side, so keep your grass color and add a little bit of white to the side. So you have two shades of the same green, just one is lighter. Okay, so I have my white, and we add it there. This one needs a little more yellow. I think it needs still more yellow. Okay, there we go. You mix it until you get a pale sort of color. That's a pretty close. Yeah. Okay, then you can start painting the stem, and this will be the shadow of the stems you paint. Remember, the jar actually, it distorts everything. So it doesn't have to be accurate. It's actually, it's very fragmented. So if you're painting up here, it's not a straight line. There's green everywhere. There's a little bit of green, and it kind of goes sideways even. Notice I'm not even doing this part of the jar, the screw lid of the jar. I'm not even painting this one in a straight line. I'm just going side by side to follow the direction of the jar. So if my stem is here, then I'll follow the direction of the jar. And then once I get up here, then I can continue painting in the direction of the stem. This one kind of crosses over. think I might need to go back with the green for some of the things up here, because when we paint our flowers, it may get covered. There's a couple of small details in here, like there's a little fork one right here. I like that one, so I'll include it. You can make up things that don't exist in here. You do not have to follow it. If you feel like you need a stem going this way, then you can add it. It's your painting, do whatever you want with it. There are no rules. Okay, we have added the first color. And now, if you remember, we still have this one right here. This dark green that we made earlier. You can go alongside the stem on the very side and add some of that in. Oh, it's very dark. Okay, go this way. And I think some of the ones back here are actually a little bit darker than the rest of them. I'm going to try something. I think this is too dark. I'm going to. I don't know if that's better or worse. I have too much leftover green, so I will put some in the shadow for fun. It doesn't actually have a purpose of being there. I just, I like it. I think it looks interesting. If you still have some green left over, you can add some more white, if you would like. So you just need a little bit. This is the lightest green we've made yet. You don't have to do this. And what you can do is just grab the very tips of this plant, of the leaves, and you can just add like the tiniest bit of highlights in here. Just grab the brush and gently add the tiniest bit of highlight. It makes it look pretty interesting. Okay, I'll give everybody a minute. After this, our step is to complete our flowers and add highlights. So there's 2 steps left in this painting. In the meantime, I will mix a color here. It's just going to be white and I think a little bit of red, just to create a pink. It's not actually for this flower here, but I just want to add some very light color into this background because I think this yellow that I have is too similar to those yellow flowers still. And I want the flowers to pop out of the page. So I'll go in and create a pastel pink. Let's see. So if you want to do that, you can, but you don't have to, of course. That means some pink. I feel it's too bright, so I will mix in some brown as well. Just a little bit. Okay, there we go. We have a pinky looking color that I'm just going to apply some of it in the back. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but well, I don't know if I like that or not. But it's already on the page, so I need to keep going. you know, oh, that's a lot of white. That's really bright. I don't know if I like that. Okay, there we go. Now go in here, add the color in. Of course, I will add some pink into the table as well. Just to give it some consistency. I'm doing a total experiment here, but what I'm doing is I'm going to define this corner of the table using white. Yeah, it looks quite interesting actually. Okay, you guys can continue playing with the background. You can play with how you like it to look as you go along. That's totally cool. But for now, let's move on to the flowers. Okay, so this flower is, that's a magenta, sort of purpley pink color. And the rest of them are yellow. And then there's like some type of thing here, some type of seed. I wonder if anybody knows what this plant is. So let's go ahead and create some flowers. This part is fun. Let's do pink first. Okay, to mix this pink, you need, I think you need a red. I believe I actually have this pink. Well, my red is very orange. If your red is very orange toned like mine, you will need to add either purple. If you have purple, try adding purple. If you don't have purple, you can add some blue. I have my leftover blue here, and then I have the red, and I'm just gonna play with it. That's very, very blue. I'll keep playing with it until I get something that I like. This is not what I wanted. Sometimes this happens. Yeah, this blue is very overpowering. Whenever I put it in something else, it just turns the whole thing very blue. So it also depends on what kind of pigments you're using. But that means more red. Maybe this is just not the right shade of red that I'm using right now. This is so orange. Okay, it's getting a little bit closer. Not really, but add more red. This feels very brown. You know what? I'm going to try grabbing a different red. Mine is orange, so it's not working. Okay, we'll try this one. Oh, it's a little better. It's missing something. I don't know if I have that color. Okay, there we go. That's closer. That's something like this. The color here is a little more vibrant. But it's okay, as long as you get something that you think is close enough. Doesn't really matter. But the good thing is, throughout that process, I have made many different shades of pink, and all of these are usable. So the first thing I will do is go right in here and start creating the flower. For creating the flower, because the thing is shaped, each petal is shaped like this. Here, let me show everybody. Okay. So I have an empty board, right? Each petal is shaped like, if we zoom in, mega zoom in on the pink flower petals, they come to a point. So when we paint them, instead of going up like this, should go down. So that way the brush point goes down like that. Okay, so let's do this part. Again, don't worry too much about accuracy. You'll be layering it over. This one shaped like that. Almost like painting grass, this one is. You can should always start with the things that look like they're more behind. This is not as vivid as I wanted the original color, but this is not bad actually. I like this one. Okay, and if you have all those leftover ones, you can go ahead and use them. So need a lighter shade to add in some highlights. There we go. And then we'll go in with this darkest one and add in some shadows. I'll just add in a couple of touches. I don't want to overdo it. And go this way. Okay. Okay. When we're finished, your flower should look something like this. It's a very spiny flower. Okay. And when you're done painting your flower, the yellow flowers actually, they go by quite quickly. So when you mix your yellow, it's just a very bright, vibrant type of yellow. So I actually have primary yellow. I'll be mixing this with white. And I will switch back to my fat brush. It's actually called, I believe it's called a filbert brush because the shape is like a bump. Okay. So we have our yellow, and the way that I'm going to apply it is not too planned out. It's kind of just I like it to look a little bit rougher. Okay. And this one, some yellow petals here. And there's one behind. Yellow tends to be quite tricky to work with because it doesn't like to cover very well. It's not as pigmented as something like purple. So okay, so once you add in your yellow flowers, you just dab the yellow in. There's some sporadic yellow dots kind of just around here, and you can just throw those in the picture. Okay. Once you finish adding in your yellow, the yellow needs a bit of shadow. So what I will do is I'll look at what I have left on my palette here. And I just use whatever is dark. There we go. We just create a kind of an off gray color and add it in some of the areas where you notice that the flower is not completely yellow. It's just in shadow or so right there, and there's a bit of a shadow that crosses over this petal here. Okay, and up here, there's some shadowed areas. This is so pink. Uh-oh, that's too pink. That's okay. Okay, from here, the rest of the painting, we're almost done. There was just one more thing here, which is to add a lot of highlights everywhere. Oh, actually, I forgot this thing. There's a thing right here. For the sake of time, I think I will leave this thing out. But if you guys want to paint that, then feel free to do that. So I guess I need to add in the stem over here. Okay, so for finishing touches, on the palette, you should have many semi-dry colors. They're almost dry. What I like to do is put a big splot of white somewhere, so here, and use up the rest of the colors as my highlights. So I already have some white here. It's not quite dry yet. It's not as bold as I want it to be. So, grab my white, create a big splot, big old white in the middle. Just add it everywhere. Corner of the flowers. Using the white, I'm going to add that in. Okay. Right, you can see how the white helps the flower to come out of the page. Just the straight white added with some other colors. It really helps everything pop. And then for this flower, and this one up here. It's up to you if you want to leave the white more unblended. I personally like it to be a more unblended. Okay. Oh, this one comes out. Didn't see that. Okay, now you can go in. This part is super fun, honestly. You go into areas. Why don't we do blue white shadow? I think this part really pulls the whole thing together. Okay, this part is white. And here, there are a couple white highlight areas. You can go ahead and just dab that area in. If you go along the jar, so oops, what did I do here? Doesn't know what I wanted. It's okay. Okay, if you go along the sides of the jar, you can mark where the glass is almost. Just using the lightest amount of pressure and go along the side of the jar with the white. Okay. And you can just add the final touches everywhere. Some white in there. There's a strip of white in this rock. Okay, and add in some highlights in the back. Okay, if you pay close attention to the water around here, there's actually a bit of a water line that you can create. So I'll be doing that. Let's see. Okay, so for this water line, it's over here along the rock. So I'm just going to use the thinnest line. See if I can. See if I can show the water. And then there is a highlight alongside the bottom right here. It's just where the glass is. Okay, so we are done at this point. If you feel like you want to add any of your other remainder colors in, you can do that.